Monster kill!
Who is the player? Who do we actually play as in Poppy Playtime? Because let's be honest, something doesn't add up. We survived the prototype stab. We survived monsters that should have killed us instantly. We survived impossible situations. We've been inside this factory for days. No food, no water, no rest, and we're still standing. So this raises a serious question. Is the player even human? To understand everything, we need to go back to the beginning. Why did the player enter the factory in the first place? In Chapter 1, we find a note that says, "Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. We're still here. Find the flower." With each chapter, we slowly realize something else. Most of the experiments recognize the player.
But you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
They don't treat him like a random stranger. They act like they know him. And then everything changes in Chapter 3. Because when we inhale the red smoke, we start hallucinating. And this is where the real truth about the player begins to reveal itself. We start seeing strange messages. Happy and fun. Why was it done? Guilt haunts you. That word, guilt, that tells us something. The player didn't just randomly come back to the factory. He came back because of guilt. But it gets even darker. During one of the hallucinations, a radio starts playing in reverse. And when reversed, it talks about the hour of joy.
I find your presence intrusive. After all this time you return. You come in here and you kill and murder. You pillage and destroy. Your presence was demanded 10 years ago and you didn't show up. 8/8/1995. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. You have no right to be here. 8/8/1995.
August 8th, 1995, the tragic day when the experiments killed the humans. And the radio says something chilling. You come in here and you kill and murder. Now think about that. Who is the radio talking to? It sounds like it's accusing the player. Before Chapter 5 released, many fans believed the player worked at the factory, that he was part of the experiments on children, that before the hour of joy happened, he left the factory, and then years later, he returned because of guilt. That theory made sense. But then Chapter 5 changed everything. Before Chapter 5 released, Mob dropped 3 VHS tapes. And in one of them, we learned something shocking. Some of the workers intentionally released the experiments. They caused the hour of joy on purpose.
Preston, you don't need to.
I just couldn't stand by and watch it happen anymore.
What are you saying?
I think I know, Amy. I had no other choice.
You let them. You let them. And you didn't think they would do something like this? Tell me this is some kind of joke. My God, how could you do that?
Not just me. There were others.
This changes everything. We just got official confirmation that the hour of joy didn't just randomly happen. It wasn't an accident. It was caused by workers who intentionally released the experiments. But here's the part people are missing. Preston said he wasn't alone. There were others.
Not just me. There were others.
And that's where this theory becomes dangerous. What if one of those others was the player? What if the player wasn't just a worker who ran away before the hour of joy? What if he was part of the plan? What if he helped release the experiments? What if he helped cause the hour of joy? Because if that's true, then suddenly everything starts to make sense. The messages on the walls, guilt haunts you. Then the radio accuses us. You come in here and you kill and murder. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. It sounds like the factory itself is pointing a finger at the player. And now, let's answer the big question you're probably thinking.
I can't remember who I am. Everything's a blur. Take me over. I'll become what you like. This is what you wanted, right? Sacrifice
Charlie's Angel.
You, the playtime butcher.
The outsider. They call you.
You're not... You're the one they've been talking about! The one who put Mommy in the grinder? Who gave the cat a nap? Down here, they're calling you the playtime butcher.
To misjudge that floating city with its alluring decor and social psychology. But with all great things comes a great responsibility, that of Clarksdale's being weather stability. How, you ask, are they up to the task? To which the answer is in a simple facility.
Ela tá cheia de tesão, eu vou te fuder com amor. Mina linda, safadinha, arregaça esse popô. Vai, vai, Ela tá cheia de tesão, eu vou arregaçar esse popô. Vai, vai.
Well, now, this is a rather interesting turn of events.
Ela tá cheia de tesão, eu arregaço esse popô.
Riding around on my little white pony, that's how we get down. Riding around on my little white pony, that's how we get down.
Vai tomar dos menores e que de ódio. Vai tomar, vai tomar, vai tomar, vai tomar, vai tomar. Dos menores e que de ódio. Vai tomar, vai tomar. Dos menores e que de ódio. Vai tomar.
Tá de rajada então, bota de ladinho. Toma sua safada, ficou viciada aqui essa
Showtime.
What can I say? 3 babies in the backseat singing. Hey DJ, won't you play that song for me? And turn it up on your radio. I got 200 seconds and I'm ready to go. What can I say? 3 babies in the backseat singing. Hey DJ, won't you play that song for me? And turn it up on your radio. I got 200 seconds and I'm ready to go.
The greatest thief of all time, he walks in plain sight. Some call him a billionaire, but me, I call him by greed, obsessed with the finest of things. He takes what he wants, his eyes glimmering green. Greed won't rest till he's crowned as a king. From the land to the sea, he'll take all that he needs. Now all I see is his suit.
If we had realized all our sins.
Come along down with me. Come along, not alone. You will see.
Your presence was demanded 10 years ago and you didn't show up. 8/8/1995. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. You have no right to be here.
Touching and teasing me, telling me no. But this time I need to feel you. Ride it, we're all alone. Ride it, just lose control. Ride it, touch my soul.
Báilalo, gózalo, como lo canto y lo siento yo.
I've looked to my right, Deji. Looked to my left, AJ. These partners stink of poo.
You know what I need to get by. Something for your mind, mind. Something for your mind, mind. Something for your
Darling, there's only one thing I care about in this world.
Nice and easy, I'ma take the lead.
but she only exists in the dark of my room. I can't ignore you. Do anything for you, lady. I do adore you.
Tap tap on my nice ass.
I can't ignore you. Do anything for you, lady. I do adore you.
Tap tap on my nice ass.
Shopper. 이빨 삭힌 스파게티 빼고 싶니 뻔 아페티 그냥 포개 어차피 이래라 이래 머릿속인 seraphim bad dish in between your teeth 그냥 포개 어차피 이래라 이래
You're the one they've been talking about! The one who put mommy in the grinder? Who gave the cat a nap? Down here, they're calling you the Playtime Butcher.
I don't want to get pregnant!
That's okay. I'll take the burden of the pregnancy.
What?
I'll get pregnant for you like a seahorse.
This dress is so itchy. I don't like it. Oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable.
Stop it, that was expensive.
Then you look
I
nice.
don't care.
Life or bath, a dry cat.
Life! Seo-chan, 一緒にやろうか。いい天気ですね。かわいい動物たちの恐ろしいお化けみたいな喫茶店。
a slave, can't be contained. So pick me from the dark and pull me from the grave. 'Cause I still feel alive. It is hopeless. I start to notice that I still feel
I've looked to my right, Deji. Look to my left, AJ. These partners stink of poo.
I'm gonna eat you. You're my desire. I'm gonna sharpen all my teeth and build a fire. I'm gonna eat you, cook and feed you. I'm gonna breathe you in my lungs and make you mine.
Come to Brazil. Come to Brazil. Come to Brazil.
Do you blame yourself? What? Well, it's quite common in this situation for a patient to feel a kind of guilt. What situation? The accident.
My ex is crazy, y'all. I've had her blocked on everything for weeks, and yet she still manages to find ways to contact me. Bro, this is what I'm talking about. Look, she's calling me on my microwave. How is that even possible?
Just your imagination. The exit is your fixation. Door after door you find that it is just a digital hallucination.
Where is your sword?
I don't know. What do you mean, I don't know?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean?
6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Everybody dance hard to the end. 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7, 6.
Same. The same hat. Same hat! Same hat! Same hat! Same hat! The same hat. Same hat.
I'm your Tamagotchi, so happy that you love me, and we should be together forever and forever. 'Cause I'm your Tamagotchi.
I said, I don't think that he's good for you. How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
Taco.
Quesadilla.
Burrito.
Una empanada.
Just Monica, just Monica. Who's your guest? Maybe you knew. Natsuki is next. I'm deleting her too. We don't need cupcakes or cones or tea. I only need you to love me.
Our special guest is here. What did you do with them? Where are the orphans? Uh-oh, she doesn't know.
I did.
But I had to.
There.
And a better place now.
You're a monster.
I built us a home and kept us safe. And you repaid me by bringing in an outsider. Plotting to
Destroy
the only heaven you or I
will ever get. I had hoped your time in the case would help you see
reason. I see now. This was my fault. You act
like a child because
a child is what they made you.
You're hurting me.
Don't be afraid.
I can fix you.
Poppy.
I
Can make
you
better. And you,
the outsider.
butcher,
They call you. Shall we see what you look like?
wrong side out.
Don't touch me.
I find your presence intrusive. After all this time you return. You come in here and you kill and murder. You pillage and destroy. Your presence was demanded 10 years ago and you didn't show up. 8/8/1995. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. You have no right to be here. 8/8/1995.
August 8th, 1995. The tragic day when the experiments killed the humans. And the radio says something chilling. You come in here and you kill and murder. Now think about that. Who is the radio talking to? It sounds like it's accusing the player. Before Chapter 5 released, many fans believed the player worked at the factory, that he was part of the experiments on children, that before the Hour of Joy happened, he left the factory, and then years later, he returned because of guilt. That theory made sense. But then Chapter 5 changed everything. Before Chapter 5 released, Mob dropped 3 VHS tapes, and in one of them, we learned something shocking. Some of the workers intentionally released the experiments. They caused the Hour of Joy on purpose.
Preston, you don't need to.
I just couldn't stand by and watch it happen anymore.
What are you saying?
I didn't know they would. I had no other choice.
You let them. You let them. And you didn't think they would do something like this? Tell me this is some kind of joke. My God, how could you do that?
Not just me. There were others.
This changes everything. We just got official confirmation that the Hour of Joy didn't just randomly happen. It wasn't an accident. It was caused by workers who intentionally released the experiments. But here's the part people are missing. Preston said he wasn't alone. There were others.
Not just me. There were others.
And that's where this theory becomes dangerous. The player isn't just trapped inside a factory. He might be trapped inside the consequences of his own actions. And think about this. Almost every major character blames the player. Mommy Longlegs.
But you worked here. So if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
Doughy the Doughman?
My friends! He killed my friends! You. It all started with you.
Even Lily.
This is all your fault! You're going in the back.
They all speak to us like we're responsible, like we deserve what's happening. Maybe deep down, they know. Maybe the player really is at fault. Maybe we're the reason everything went wrong. Maybe we're more guilty than we ever realized. So now take a second, take a deep breath, and put yourself in the player's place. Would you really go back to the factory after 10 years? After everything that happened? Would you go back if you truly felt innocent? Or would you only return if guilt was eating you alive? If people died because of you? If you chose to release the experiments? If you started the suffering? If the blood was on your hands, wouldn't you feel the need to face it? And maybe that's why the player came back. Not to escape, not to survive, but to face punishment. Because if he truly caused the hour of joy, then maybe this isn't a nightmare. Maybe this is justice. What if one of those others was the player? What if the player wasn't just a worker who ran away before the hour of joy? What if he was part of the plan? What if he helped release the experiments? What if he helped cause the hour of joy? Because if that's true, then suddenly everything starts to make sense. The messages on the walls, guilt haunts you. Then the radio accuses us. You come in here and you kill and murder. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. It sounds like the factory itself is pointing a finger at the player. And now, let's answer the big question you're probably thinking. If the player helped release the experiments, then why wasn't he at the factory during the hour of joy? Preston Willard was there. He got captured by Chum. Chum handed him to the prototype, and the prototype turned Preston into Catby. So why wasn't the player there? Why did he miss the party? And this is where the theory gets darker. We know Preston and others released the experiments thinking they would run away. They believed the experiments would escape. They believed they would break free from the torture. But instead of running, the experiments started killing the humans. They wanted revenge. The plan failed. It became a massacre. Now here's the dark part. What if the player knew that would happen? What if he understood that the experiments wouldn't just escape? They would slaughter everyone? If he didn't know, he would have shown up like Preston and the other workers who were part of the plan. But he didn't show up. He stayed away. Why? Maybe because he knew. Maybe he knew the prototype wanted revenge. Maybe he knew blood would be spilled and he didn't want to be there when it happened. If that's true, then the player isn't just guilty because he experimented on children. He's guilty because he helped start something he knew would end in death. Equals, he didn't just unleash monsters, he unleashed a massacre. Scientists, workers, friends, all dead because of a plan he helped create. And that would explain why the guilt in his hallucinations feels so intense. Guilt haunts you because his guilt is bigger than everyone else's. And now, think about the ending of Chapter 5. When the prototype throws us into the Poppy gel, we start hearing Poppy's voice inside our head.
Should you come back years later? Conscience finally getting the better of you. May you descend into the dark and the dust. Welcome home.
Your conscience finally getting the better of you. That line hits completely differently now. This isn't just survival horror. This feels like punishment.
But the player doesn't talk. Yet their emotions and intentions are not only displayed by their actions but the environment around them as well. You don't need a character to speak to know what kind of personality they have, and the player is a perfect example of this. From how the other characters describe them to doing tasks and puzzles. They've shown to be a selfless and intelligent person who uses their skills and experience in working at Playtime Co. as an advantage to help others in need, which is one of the many things I love about them. Even though the player has never spoke about it, we all know that the player has survivor's guilt. Do you know why? Because the game not only shows us in the Chapter 3 hallucination scene, but it is also mentioned by other characters such as Miss Delight and Poppy. One of the reasons why I love how much the player displays their own movements in Chapter 5 is because it also helps represent what emotion the player is feeling in that scene. There are many times where the player has shown to be their own character, from their personality to their lore and trauma, that people brush it off so much. Anyways, bye. What? Are we just saying anything at this point? And before you start hating on me, I would like to mention that I spent the last 2 hours trying to find any post on Twitter from the devs even remotely related to the player and found nothing. Even in the replies, someone asked to see the photo of the tweet because they thought this theory, if you can even call it that, was insane, and surprise surprise, the person did not send it.
Oh, but Christy, this is such a non-issue.
No, it isn't. It's people who spread misinformation like this who are the reason why other people have trouble following the lore of Poppy Playtime. And I'd hate to see people actually believe this when it obviously isn't true. You can't say random things that the player has done without having any proof from the devs or even the game itself that confirms that they have. This applies to all the other characters as well, by the way. As much as I want my theories about the player to be canon, I would never convince people that my theories are the truth, let alone say a dev confirmed it, because I know that in reality, it's just what I personally think. Anyways, that's all. Bye.
Is the player, aka PW, actually Preston White? Recently in Catnap's new conditioning video, a new male scientist by the name of Preston shows concern for the experiments and seems to share the same voice as the orientation book narrator. Shout out to Sheep Rampage for finding this out first. And this would also explain why he can handle all the boss fights so well, because he knows how all the experiments were conditioned. He could actually be Dr. White himself, or his son, or his brother, but what do you think?
Why come back? It can't be that a vague answer was your only reason. Was there someone you loved here? Someone you lost? Was it the pain of not knowing for sure that brought you here?
For 5 years at this point, one of the biggest mysteries in Poppy Playtime has been an employee named Rich. Appearing in 4 separate VHS tapes, one in each of the first 4 chapters, Rich became a little bit of a fan favorite. A large number of people even believed that we might play as Rich in the games, and honestly for a long time, this was a very strong theory. With many people pointing out that the fact that he has a tape in all of the first 4 chapters, it just seems weird that Mob Entertainment would draw so much attention to one employee. It almost felt obvious that the player had to be Rich. But most theories you'll find on YouTube or in Reddit threads were created when there were only 4 chapters. And with the newly released Chapter 5, we were given a cassette tape that might actually close the book on Rich. For 4 chapters, we saw his career grow from an entry-level employee. We're first introduced to Rich from a VHS tape in Chapter 1. In the tape, he's very loud, frustrated, and constantly criticizing Playtime Co.'s management. While talking to another worker named Avery, he begins to vent his specific concerns. Right away, Rich stands out because he isn't afraid to complain about how the company treats its workers. Been there, buddy. And at this point, he represents something kind of rare inside Playtime Co. Somebody willing to speak up.
Rich, where are they keeping the Huggy boxes?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Remember when maintenance left it a sweep of this place?
No.
Exactly. Nobody in this stupid company knows what they're doing. Oh, I swear, I haven't seen a single box in its place since they started flooding the storehouse with orphanage junk.
Right.
I get it. It's a nice program and all on brand. It's just hard to be happy about it when manufacturing's on our necks about it, because we can't find stupid Huggy boxes!
Rich.
You're right. You're right. It's for the orphans. I just wish there were less boxes. Anything less would be more habitable. Is that even a word? Habitable?
By the second tape, things have changed a little bit. In Chapter 2, the VHS tape we find pertaining to Rich informs us that Rich has been demoted and reassigned to what he calls the Island of Misfit Toys. Now he's isolated, angrier, and clearly being pushed out of sight. Instead of improving the conditions, the company just removes Rich from the equation. They don't let him go, but they put him where nobody has to listen to him anymore. And Rich begins to realize how little power an employee really has at Playtime Co.
Well, it finally happened. The company actually heard all my complaints. Yep, they listened to them very carefully. I guess my words must have really inspired them to take action. Because the next day I got demoted down here to the freaking island of misfit toys! Why do I talk to myself?
We find the third VHS tape in Chapter 3. Rich is having a conversation with his supervisor, Stuart. He admits he wants to do better, but feels trapped between being frustrated and the ambition that he's trying to show. And then Stuart tells him something kind of unexpected. He's retiring, and he's considered recommending Rich to take the position. And for the first time, Rich feels believed in and supported, and he honestly doesn't know how to handle that.
Stupid clunky elevator.
What was that, Richie?
Nothing. Let's just get this shipment dropped and go. Hello, my name is Elliot Ludwig. When you look around...
I take it you're not a fan of this place, are you?
Nope, never liked the feel of it. I mean, don't you think these kids deserve some real sunlight instead of floodlights and painted skies? Hell, we're not even allowed to talk to these kids. Isn't that... Sorry, Stu.
Sorry? That doesn't sound like the Rich I know.
Well, I'm trying to stop being so pissed off all the time. My wife says I'm a lovely man, but I gotta control my temper. So, I'm doing it for her.
You're just different, Rich. Honest to a fault. But I always liked that about you.
Yeah? Well, you're one of the few.
You know, Richie, with my retirement coming up, they've been pushing hard for me to choose my replacement. I'm actually thinking about giving the role to you.
Really?
Yeah, really. Nothing official yet, but I think there's a decent guy beneath all that gruff. An honest, hardworking man. You prove me right? I'd say your chances are pretty good.
Wow, geez, I don't know what to say. I'm just glad to see not everyone in this place has it out for me.
Not everybody, Rich. Not everybody.
The final VHS tape is found in Chapter 4, and it seems to bring Rich's story full circle. He's now the manager, in the same shoes that were once filled by Stuart. And now, Rich has to deal with an entry-level employee behaving exactly the way he did in the very first VHS tape. Same anger, same complaints, same frustration, yelling about how people aren't speaking up. Rich finally understands the system from the other side.
That you, kid?
Yeah, it's me.
Don't lurk out there. It's weird. Just come on in. Being early isn't a crime. You know why I asked you here, right?
Why are we doing this dance again, boss?
Because you were reported. And all reports from my people come back to me. Look, I'm not here to place blame. Just tell me your side of this. So, what happened?
This guy, Rod, he works the line. One of those twitchy mooks with the side eye. And this guy, Rod, he saw me drop a box he and his boys filled. Kind of irked him. I think he was joking, that's probably how he meant it, but he dropped some line about me disappearing. Him and the other guys laughed. I was having a bad day, so I yelled at him a bit. About him, about the company, about everything, really.
And where were you when this happened?
The factory floor.
Oh, great.
Look, I don't mean to keep causing you trouble, Rich. You're good to me, to all of us. But the company isn't good to you, or to Rod, or me, or to anyone. Leith says playtime is better than ever, but profits aren't people, and the profit margins betray just how on edge everyone is. Hell, anywhere else, I'd have probably liked Rod, but because he said it like that, and with all the rumors, I just don't know if I can take it anymore. And it feels wrong that no one says anything as loud as they should.
Look, I get it. This company is far from angelic. Trust me, I know that. And you shouldn't ignore it. But there are smarter ways to go about what you did.
I know. I'm sorry.
Hey, no matter what the executives say, no matter the looks you get, just know that I've got your back, kid. Shipping is a family. We look out for each other. That's the way it is now. So don't fight, don't shout, just come talk to me from now on, okay? I don't want another report on my desk like this one. I fight for you, all of you. And I'm in a position where I can do so.
Thanks, Rich. It's good to know not everyone here is terrible to us.
Not everyone, kid. Not everyone.
His story felt complete. This is where many players believed his journey connected directly to ours. He started as an entry-level employee, climbed his way up to management, and then the path from there went all over the place. Either he was sick during the Hour of Joy, or he chose not to come in, maybe he was assigned somewhere, maybe he was on a trip. You could write off his absence in so many different ways. There were plenty of alternatives to the idea that he perished with the rest of the employees. Most people believe that for one reason or another, he wasn't there that day, and he's the person coming back that we play as in the first 4 chapters. That is, until they released Chapter 5. This time we find a cassette tape down in the labs, but the conversation doesn't include Rich. It doesn't include his coworkers either. It's actually between 2 executives, Leith Pierre and Eddie Ritterman. I'll be honest with you, if you've ever played Poppy Playtime, you know those might be the 2 worst people to have focused on you. Not just executives, but Leith Pierre and Eddie Ritterman, boy, you messed up. But they seem to be talking about Rich. I'm gonna go ahead and play it first so you can hear it yourself, then I'll break down what this means for the story.
Dave, I've been reviewing your concerns about our head of shipping.
He's becoming some sort of people's champion. Now too many noses are sniffing around. We deal with this now, we'll make him a martyr.
Not if we deal with it the right way.
Oh?
I think Mr. Lovitz is due for a promotion.
You're serious?
Oh, he can't be the people's champion if he's one of us. Up his pay, his title, new parking spot. Give him a new car, too. Let everyone think he sold his soul.
And if it doesn't work?
You worry too much. Try focusing on the bigger picture. Our friends in Tokyo are coming up to speed. At this rate, this factory won't even be our main focus in a few short years.
And the park?
Renovations are underway. I'll be inspecting the premises next week, 7th to the 12th. I trust you won't burn this place down in my absence.
I'll do my best. Though I won't lie, this place is feeling more like a powder keg every day.
During the conversation about Rich, they mentioned that he's become the head of shipping, and according to them, too many people are growing a liking to him. He's become a sort of people's champion. Workers trust him, support him, listen to him. They float the idea that they could eliminate him, but they decide he's too popular amongst the lower level staff, and if he were to vanish, it would draw way too much attention. So they come up with a far more creative and devious idea: promote him even higher. Give him more money, more status, even give him a parking space with his name on it. Because once the workers believe that he's joined management, they'll stop seeing him as one of their own. They'll think it all went to his head, and then they'll distance themselves. But the real kicker comes next, because this recording is dated August 1995. Now, if you're decently versed in the Poppy Playtime franchise, you'll know why that's significant. August 5th, 1995 was the Hour of Joy. So for this recording to be dated August 1995, there's only about a 4.5 day window where this could have happened. And I'll be honest with you, If two of the executives, especially Laith Pierre and Eddie Ritterman, are conspiring against you, and that's all taking place within days of the Hour of Joy, that's pretty much as bad as it can get for a person in the Poppy Playtime universe. You would pretty much have to be locked in a room with the prototype to have it any worse than Rich does in that situation. Or you could be Dog Day. So what does this all mean? Well, when you put all 5 recordings together instead of the 4 we were working with previously, Rich doesn't really seem set up to be our protagonist anymore. He spends years fighting the system, only to slowly become part of it, and then probably fall victim to it. Another thing a lot of people like to say is that the Doctor doesn't recognize you when you show up in Chapter 4. Even though it's confirmed that he's been watching you since the moment you walk through the front door in Chapter 1. People use that detail to support the idea that it could be Rich, but consider the tape you just heard. He's no longer an entry-level employee, he's not even the manager of shipping anymore. Eddie and Laith brought him up even higher than that. Not quite to the executives, but they say in the tape if he thinks he's in with us. That wording alone sets him up to be spending more time either in the labs or at least in higher security areas. This new tape really makes it more difficult to believe that if Rich were the player, Harley wouldn't recognize him. Mommy Longlegs and Miss Delight recognized him, but that's believable when you work in shipping. But with what Eddie and Laith laid out, Harley would almost certainly recognize him. And you might have noticed, but during that tape, Eddie was planning to leave right around this time. He was going to be traveling to where they're possibly opening up a Playtime park in Tokyo, and he essentially tells Laith to handle it while he's gone. And based on Eddie telling Laith, handle it while I'm gone, and that agreement being made days before the Hour of Joy, even without knowing the Hour of Joy was coming, I don't see any situation where Laith Pierre would let Rich not be present on that day. Laith probably was keeping a close eye on Rich and probably had him as deep in the factory as he was at this time. If they're really trying to move forward with the illusion they agreed upon, they're going to keep him as close to them as possible until the situation handles itself, and that really sets him up to perish with the rest of the employees. So all in all, it feels like we've really put a bookend on Rich, but we've opened our own story as the player wide open again. And it's probably going to be another year until we have a Chapter 6 to give us more information. But that's not going to stop us from theorizing in the meantime, so please remember to like this video and click that subscribe button so you can stay with me as we theorize until the next chapter releases. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.
You been saying, talking about how I set you up, and I know I might mess you up. Hey man, gon' get you up. Ain't nobody gon' set you up. I ain't even gon' sweat you up. And we'll never be friends.
Out of every mystery in Poppy Playtime, the one hiding in plain sight might be the most game-changing of them all. Why our character never says a single word. The answer doesn't just explain our silence, it could even reveal exactly who we've been playing as this entire time. And the evidence Chapter 5 just handed us might have cracked this wide open. So to truly figure out such a vague yet important mystery, our best approach will be to explore various different possibilities, as one of them is bound to be what's really going on here. And we'll start with what I believe is a very plausible theory. Let's just say that there's plenty of evidence suggesting the player might not be as human as we thought. Now, I know that may sound off, for obvious reasons.
You know, I never thought I'd see another like you. A human.
We have to consider, though, that we have two different examples of disturbingly humanoid experiments, Miss Delight and the newcomer, Lily Lovebraids. Our player character could be an experiment like this, and as we'll discuss, their reason for not speaking could completely tie into it. Now, these humanoid experiments are noticeably made from plastic, but there seems to be an interesting trend with Playtime Company, in which they would randomly make a specific experiment every now and then which was way more different or advanced compared to most others. An example of this is Doughy the Doughman. He can essentially teleport through small cracks in the wall and completely reshape his body however he wants. And despite him being created long before the factory's closure, no other experiments have such advanced abilities. So what if our player character is an experiment who's a spitting image of a regular human? And the reason they can't talk is because they were never given that ability. Similar to experiments like Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy, or their voice box is faulty, this did happen occasionally with Playtime's experiments after all.
Is his, voice thingy still broken?
Now, something that really ties this theory into place is that we know Playtime employees could actually volunteer to be experimented on. This is exactly what happened with pediatrician Thomas Clark, as he wished to be turned into a toy after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. but after the experiment, he lost the ability to speak, something the player also lacks. And if you don't remember, our protagonist literally used to work at the factory, so maybe they asked for the same fate as Thomas, and Playtime used this volunteering as an opportunity to try out a completely accurate human-looking experiment. Our player character may have even asked for this, wishing to appear as a regular human, but needing to be experimented on to save their life from a potential illness. The cost for this, however, was no longer being able to talk. This theory really does explain most things. Why the player can't speak, and how the outside world, as well as characters like the Doctor, didn't recognize them as an experiment. Of course, he was the head scientist and was heavily involved in most experiments, but he didn't even remember us in Chapter 4. So why would he remember the experiment to turn us into a humanoid toy? But here's where things get even more interesting, because despite all of that evidence, I think some other possibilities are even more likely. One idea suggests the opposite of the previous theory. The player may choose not to speak at all, or not exactly choose, but rather is just not able to talk because of their trauma. We must remember that some scientists at the company actually felt horrible about the things they were made to do in the name of science. One example of this is the new character, Chloe Aerykins, who wrote various letters that we see in the new chapter back to her family while working at the Playtime Labs. She clearly felt guilty about her actions, and there's no doubt that our player character was the same.
And should you come back years later, your conscience finally getting the better of you, may you descend into the dark and the dust.
In the nightmare sequence of Chapter 3, we see messages such as "guilt haunts you" and "nowhere is more haunted than the mind." And the reason for this becomes clear as day when we look at an unused synopsis for Chapter 1, which states the player didn't show up for work during the Hour of Joy, only to find military vehicles guarding the whole factory the next day. We can only imagine what was going through their heads for the 10 years following this, whether they were a scientist or just a regular 9-to-5 employee. If they were a scientist, the player obviously had guilt for mutilating orphans and leaving all of their co-workers to die, just for them and them only to survive. Or if they were a normal worker who didn't know about the experiments, they could probably never stop thinking about what on earth happened to their colleagues after the Hour of Joy. And if they subtly knew something shady was going on at the factory, this would only leave them feeling even worse about everything.
Declining profits, failed experiments, people are constantly seeing things they shouldn't.
This audio clearly shows that confidential experiments eventually began being spotted by lower-level employees. The player may have been one of them, and all of this would definitely be enough to seriously mess with someone's mind and render them unable to speak anymore. Another possibility is even that although our protagonist can physically speak, they just can't really do so during the events of the game. Allow me to explain. Official developer storyboards for previous chapters portray the player character as wearing a thick hazmat suit, almost like the ones worn by resource extraction specialists. And as we see in trailers along with the spin-off game Project Playtime, these specialists never spoke a single word. The only issue here, though, is that a VHS tape in Chapter 4 features a group of specialists literally having a conversation with each other, so this doesn't seem all that likely. Now, stick with me here, because this final theory makes the most sense by far, and it changes everything. It explains all the lingering mysteries, such as why all the characters seemingly don't expect replies from the player when being talked to. It reveals the reason for some seemingly random lore in the new chapter, and it simultaneously solves one of the most long-standing theories in the entire series. So, as of now, there only seems to be one instance in the entire game where a character says something to the player which should actually get a response back.
Did you kill her? Good. I'll board the train.
Now, after asking the question, Poppy implies that we did in fact answer it by continuing the conversation, but we don't hear the protagonist actually say anything, nor is there even an animation showing us nodding our head or something like that. But what if I told you that in the actual story, we did give Poppy a verbal response, but just very quietly? There's very convincing evidence which tells us the reason for this, and better yet, I can even explain why this quiet response was not included in the game itself, because it would spoil our character's identity before its official reveal. I believe we play as none other than Eddie M.N. Ritterman, one of Playtime's main executives who was very much responsible for what the experiments went through. We must consider that our identity mystery surely has to be revealed before the game ends, and since Chapter 6 is probably the finale, that would be the perfect place to do it. And Eddie is the one character who has been present in the game all the way back since Chapter 2, but only got a voice reveal later in Chapter 4. But why would Eddie barely speak during the game's events, and why so quietly? Well, we mentioned that Eddie was literally an executive, meaning the toys obviously knew and hated him. So the reason for it is that he simply needed to hide his voice as much as possible to make sure no experiments would recognize and probably devour him. And as we already went over, the player apparently wears a hazmat suit, which is how the toys wouldn't recognize Eddie by his appearance either. But solving why the player doesn't speak using this evidence means nothing if we have no proof that Eddie actually is the player. And this is where it all comes together, because the new chapter may have just given us every answer we need. There is a cassette tape of a conversation between Eddie and Leith Pierre, dated August 1995.
And the park?
Renovations are underway. I'll be inspecting the premises next week, 7th to the 12th.
Eddie mentions that he is going to be inspecting Playtime's theme park in Tokyo from the 7th to the 12th of August. And that rings some loud alarm bells as the hour of joy falls right in between those dates, meaning Eddie was not at the factory during the massacre and ended up surviving it, just like our protagonist. Even if we choose not to take the unused Chapter 1 synopsis as canon proof of our player being in the region right after the hour of joy to see the military vehicles, a creepy reverse radio message in Chapter 3 definitively confirms the player simply wasn't at work on the fateful day, regardless. So the way I see it, all the evidence is pointing to our elusive player character being Ritterman himself. And this is exactly why we don't speak, to not expose ourselves to the toys as one of the very people responsible for all their suffering. So what do you think about all this? Do you agree with any of these theories, or do you have any different ideas? Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more.
You do know why the toys call us the Playtime Butcher, right? Well, to understand it, you have to look at what the toys actually remember about us. Now, Miss Delight and Mommy Longlegs both recognize us. They know we used to work at Playtime Co. But Harley Sawyer, the head scientist behind every experiment, has no idea who we are. So we weren't part of the experiments, but we were memorable enough for the monster to remember our face. In Chapter 3, during a hallucination, we see an office with the words, "Guilt haunts you," above the desk, our old workstation, which means we're directly responsible for the suffering of every toy in the game, but without being a decision maker. That's why many believe that we're the one that transported every child to the experiments. But what do you think?
Poppy Playtime messed up its timeline, and I am not happy about that. At this point, we know that the Playtime Co. factory shut down somewhere in the mid to late 90s after the release of the Boogie Box. This was reaffirmed in a recent Discord interview when Mob Games said explicitly that the factory didn't close in the early 2000s. So the mid-90s it is. Except there's one teeny tiny problem with it, the spin-off game, which ruined it all. Come on, guys, do I have to do everyone's work for them? Ugh! You see, in Project Playtime's factory level, there's a real-world book that's hidden somewhere on the shelves. The Best That Money Can't Buy by Jacques Fresco. It's about an idealized world where technology enables a high standard of living for everyone without the constraints of currency or debt. If it sounds familiar, it probably should.
Giant toys. We can decrease the number of people on our payroll.
So thematically, the book works, but timeline-wise, no, it breaks everything. This book was published in 2002, which means that staff were in the factory reading this book and leaving it on the shelves before the factory was shut down. So which is it, Mob Games? Did the factory close down in the early 2000s? Or is this book Easter egg just flat out wrong? Either way, it is patently clear that
If you've played the Poppy Playtime series, you've probably wondered about one big question. Why don't the monsters just leave the factory? Think about it. It's been more than 10 years since the Hour of Joy. After that massacre, the experiments were finally free from the humans who created them. So why are they still trapped inside the factory? At first, survival wasn't a problem. The factory was filled with the bodies of the employees who died during the Hour of Joy. The experiments fed on those bodies to stay alive. But eventually, those bodies were gone. And when that happened, something much worse began. The experiments started fighting each other for food. Some turned on their own kind just to survive. Others slowly starved to death in the lower levels of the factory. So if things became that desperate, why didn't they just leave? To understand the answer, we have to look at one very important detail. Most of the Bigger Bodies experiments, characters like Huggy Wuggy, Catnap, Mommy Longlegs, and many others were loyal to the prototype. But the prototype didn't control them with strength alone. He controlled them with fear. The prototype convinced the experiments that leaving the factory was impossible. He told them that if they ever escaped, humans would hunt them down, that the outside world would see them as monsters, not victims. And honestly, from their perspective, that fear makes sense. Humans were the ones who tortured them. Humans were the ones who turned them into experiments in the first place. So many of them stopped trusting humanity completely. They believe that if they ever leave the factory, they will be captured, hunted, and destroyed. But there's another reason that might be even more disturbing. Many of the experiments don't even remember that they were human. Playtime Company didn't just transform these children and workers into monsters. They also erased their identities. Through intense conditioning and brainwashing, the company wiped away their memories. One of the clearest examples is Theodore Gramble, the child who later became Catnap. According to the records, Playtime Company brainwashed him for 49 days straight. By the end of that process, Theodore no longer remembered who he was. His name, his past, his life as a human, all of it was gone. And this wasn't an accident. Playtime Company did this intentionally, because if the experiments remembered their human lives, they might try to escape. They might try to return to the outside world, or even rebel against the scientists who created them. So the company erased those memories before the transformation was complete. And because of that, many of the experiments don't see themselves as humans anymore. They believe they are toys, creatures that were created to exist inside the factory. And that might be the real reason they never try to escape, because in their minds, the factory isn't a prison, it's their home, and they believe they were meant to stay there forever. And I know many of you probably have another question. Why don't characters like Doughy, Poppy, or Giblet just leave the factory? They clearly aren't loyal to the prototype. In fact, they're against him. Poppy is literally working with the player, who is a human. Doughy also trusts the player, and characters like Giblet are helping the player as well. These characters are also much more intelligent than most of the other experiments, and they don't seem to be manipulated or controlled by the prototype. So if they trust humans, why don't they simply escape the factory and ask for help? I mean, they're starving. Leaving the factory to find food would make much more sense, right? But here's the problem. Even if they wanted to escape, they simply can't. Most of these characters are trapped deep inside the lower levels of the factory, nearly 800 feet underground, and reaching the surface isn't just a straight path. To escape, they would have to pass through multiple deadly areas that were guarded for years. First, they would need to go through the prison area, which was controlled by the Doctor. That area was guarded by experiments like Yarnaby. Even if someone somehow survived that, the next major section would be Playcare, which was guarded by Catnap. And if they somehow managed to defeat Catnap, they would still have to pass through the game station, where Mommy Longlegs was waiting. And even if they made it that far, the final obstacle would be the factory entrance, which was guarded by Huggy Wuggy. Now today, many of these monsters are dead, but for almost 10 years after the Hour of Joy, these areas were all guarded under the prototype's control, which means escaping the factory was nearly impossible. And we actually see proof of this in the story. When the player frees Poppy from her case, she gets captured by Mommy Longlegs within minutes. She didn't even make it far before she was caught again. And there's another reason escaping the factory is so difficult. The building itself was designed to hide the company's secrets. Elliot Ludwig built the factory in a way that prevented anyone from easily reaching the deeper laboratory levels. The deeper you go inside the factory, the harder it becomes to reach the outside world, which means most experiments aren't staying there by choice. They're trapped, forced to live inside the factory, slowly starving with almost no way out. And now, let's answer the final big question. Will any of these experiments and toys ever escape the factory? Think about it. Most of the powerful characters who controlled the factory are already gone. Mommy Longlegs is dead. Catnap is dead. Many of the strongest Bigger Bodies experiments have already been killed, which means the path to leaving the factory is slowly becoming clear. But there's one big problem. There are barely any characters left to actually escape. Almost every Bigger Bodies experiment is gone. The smaller friendly toys that Doughy hid in Safe Haven are also dead because Safe Haven was destroyed in the explosion. Doughy himself died at the end of Chapter 4. Huggy, Kissy, and Lily are also most likely dead. Even most of the smiling critters were killed long before we entered the factory during the Toy War. So now, the path may be open, but there's almost no one left to take it. However, a few characters are still alive. Characters like Giblet, Chum Chompkins, and Poppy, and possibly some Bigger Bodies these experiments, like PJ Pugapillar, who was never confirmed to be killed. There could also be other unknown experiments still hiding somewhere inside the factory that we haven't discovered yet. So could these remaining experiments ever reach the outside world? The answer is maybe, because right now, the situation is still extremely dangerous. At the end of Chapter 5, Poppy was captured by the prototype. He took her with him somewhere deeper inside the factory. Gliblet is injured, and we still don't know where Chum Chompkins is. So in Chapter 6, our main mission will most likely be rescuing Poppy from the prototype, possibly with the help of Dr. Harley Sawyer. But even if the prototype is finally defeated, there's still another important question. Do these experiments even want to leave the factory? Because as we talked about earlier in the video, many of them have already accepted the factory as their home. It's the only place they know, the only world they remember. So some of them might not even want to escape. But at the same time, there is almost no food left inside the factory. After 10 years of chaos, starvation, and fighting, the resources inside the factory are nearly gone, which means at some point, if the surviving experiments want to stay alive, they might be forced to leave the factory, and that could finally bring them face to face with the real world. But there's one more thing we can't forget about: the orphans. If the orphans are still alive somewhere inside the factory, then maybe they could finally escape too, possibly with the help of the player. But the truth is, we still don't know what really happened to them, because when Poppy asked the prototype where the orphans were, he simply said they were in a better place.
What did you do with them? Where are the orphans?
I did. What I had to.
They're
in a better place now.
But what does that actually mean? Does it mean they're safe somewhere inside the factory? Or does it mean something much darker happened to them? Right now, we don't know if the orphans are alive or dead, and that mystery might finally be answered in the next chapter. So let me know in the comments. Should I make a separate video explaining the full theory about what happened to the orphans? But for now, the final question still remains. Will the surviving experiments ever escape the factory? Or will the factory always remain their prison? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you want to see something even darker, click the end screen video right here. In that video, I explain the full list of every human and experiment that has died in Poppy Playtime. Click now, and I'll see you there.
Ever since we stepped foot in those factory doors, we've had so much stuff happen to us, all in the span of 1 or 2 days, to the point where we're pretty much out of toys now, and it seems like the series is coming to a close. But what would have happened if we never showed up? Would all the toys still be alive? Are we really the cause for all of these bad things happening? Well, let's figure that out. I'm gonna be going through each chapter to see what would be different and what could have happened instead if we had never showed up. Firstly, in chapter 1, not too much happens except for the fall of Huggy Wuggy, where he falls down to the bottom of the factory, sustaining many injuries and barely surviving. Which means if we had never showed up, it's possible that instead of chasing us around and eventually becoming severely injured, he would have just continued to roam the factory, most likely as one of the prototype's subjects. Now going into chapter 2 is where things start to get interesting, because in the very end of chapter 1, we freed Poppy from her case, and if we hadn't shown up to the factory, then Poppy would still be stuck in there. In chapter 2, we wake up after being knocked out and then follow Poppy to a giant hole in the ground where she's kidnapped by Mommy Longlegs. And in order to get Poppy back, we play a series of 3 games, which ends up getting Bunzo Bunny and the Wuggies killed. Which means if we hadn't shown up, they wouldn't have died. But also if we hadn't shown up, Mommy Longlegs wouldn't have died, because in the end of the game, we managed to find a grinder which kills her. But believe me, it gets much worse, because in chapter 3 we're eventually brought down to the school by the prototype, and in the school we're attacked by Miss Delight, but we manage to escape by shutting a gate right down on her bottom jaw. But it gets sadder, because eventually we go down to the school's prison where we find Dog Day being tortured and barely alive. But before we can do anything to help him, he's eaten alive by a bunch of mini smiling critters which crawl inside of his body and take possession of him, turning him into nothing but a shell.
Listen to me. You need to get out of this place. You need to live. You and Poppy could fix this. End this madness. The torment. Oh no. Oh no. Leave me. Please. Just go.
And although we don't necessarily see him die, because he was possessed by the smiling critters, we can assume that Dog Day died, but now his body is being controlled by the many smiling critters. But then we're led into a boss fight with Catnap, where we don't kill him but shock him, and it's the prototype who comes into the room and kills him for a reason that we still don't know yet. And in the very end of the game, when we go down the elevator to the labs, Kissy was attacked by something, and it was pretty bad, because in chapter 4 we see that she sustained a lot of injuries, literally needing a makeshift sling for her arm, which means if we had never showed up, Huggy would be fine, Mommy Longlegs, Bunzo Bunny, all of the Wuggies, Miss Delight, Dog Day, and Catnap would still be alive, and Kissy wouldn't have gotten injured. And we're not even in chapter 4 yet. In chapter 4, we make it down to the bottom of the factory, where we kill so many toys. The first was Yarnaby, who tried to kill us, but thankfully got caught on a hook while trying to chase us and fell down into a pit of lava. Then we killed Harley Sawyer, otherwise known as the Doctor, by going to where he was stored and removing his Omni chip. Then in the end of the game, we killed Doughy when he pinned the blame of Safe Haven's destruction on us by pulling a giant drill down on top of him. But these are just the deaths that we caused. There are so many others in chapter 4 that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't shown up. For example, when we fall into some kind of enclosure where Pianosaurus was eating something, Doughy grabs him, smashes him to bits, and eats him.
Now that hit the spot. I haven't eaten in weeks.
But I'm pretty sure that Doughy would have eaten him anyway, because Doughy was already nearby and was starving to the point where he'd eat his fellow experiments. Later in the game though, when Harley tried to test our morality, we were given two options: kill Simon Smoke or die. Harley thought that we were going to kill him in order to save ourselves, but there was actually a third option where you could escape through a hole in the ceiling and not have to kill Simon. However, most of us didn't realize that and ended up killing him in order to progress in the game. And some of y'all called me a cold-blooded killer. I didn't know. And last but definitely not least were the toys that were killed in Safe Haven, which happened all because we managed to get the Omni chip from Sawyer and tried to fix the generator, which lowered the defenses, allowing the prototype away into Safe Haven, which killed so many toys to the point where Doughy tried to kill us. So far, it seems like us coming into the factory was the worst thing that could have happened to all of the toys. But there is one detail that I've left out until now, and it's the fact that all of the toys were starving to death when we showed up, which means that if we hadn't shown up, the toys would have likely died pretty quickly anyway, as some of the toys in Safe Haven were asking each other whether Harley or starvation will be what kills them.
When's the last time you ate? I can't remember, honestly. Neither can I. It feels like forever. Which will kill us first, you think? The doctor or hunger? I prefer not to even think about it.
And there's also the fact that the prototype has been ruling over the factory ever since the Hour of Joy, where the toys have had to live lives trying to escape and barely maintain a shelter hidden away from him using a generator that's off the grid. And this wasn't just some kind of hideaway life, but their friends were killed by the prototype, reminding them that he's coming to kill every last one of the toys. Because in one of the chapter 4 tapes, we hear Hoppy Hopscotch talking with some of the other toys during a medical emergency, but later in one of the notes, we read on the back of it that it says Hoppy died, which means that every once in a while, they lose some of their closest friends to the prototype. So honestly, if we hadn't have shown up, the toys would have had much slower, much more painful deaths, and would continue to live lives in misery until they'd eventually all starve to death. So now that we're here, we have to do the absolute best that we can do, which means that we'll have to find some way to kill the prototype and put an end to everything that has happened so far in the factory, and maybe, just maybe, free the orphans and give them lives outside of Playcare, where they can be children in a real orphanage, or maybe even in their own new homes. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.
Have you ever wondered what actually happened to the player and what they really look like? I have a few theories on this, and the last one seems to be the most accurate.
For pre-order on May 10th, you can collect all your favorite characters like Huggy Wuggy, Poppy, and Player. Haha, look at them go! Cute little things. Cut it out, you two.
I said cut it out!
Adventure begins with us coming to find our co-workers at the factory and learn what happened to them, but that might not be the whole story. The cutscene we saw earlier, the official toy commercial released by the developers, shows the player as a yellow toy, and in the spin-off game Project Playtime, the original characters are also like this. At first, when I saw this character in the trailers, I thought it was just for marketing purposes, a small animation they made for the trailer. But after all these years, especially with plushies being made and sold in the player's form, I'm starting to think the likelihood of my theory being true is very high. Either we've been toys from the very beginning and didn't know it, or somehow we forgot during the transformation process. Let's remember the time when Miss Delight saw us alive and was shocked.
Wait, I recognize you. Yes, I remember. You used to work here. How are you? Alive.
Here, Miss Delight clearly questions how we are alive and is very surprised. This means something very bad must have happened to us and we shouldn't be alive right now, yet here we are. No toy should ever leave the factory. If a toy tries to escape, it gets destroyed immediately. Also, if there are damaged toys, the prototype is programmed to eliminate them. As a former employee, I believe the process of turning into a toy was done, and an army of employees using grab packs was created, turning them into yellow toys. Most likely, all the toys using grab packs were broken, and as the last of our kind, we remain. We can examine the validity of this theory by looking at the shrine that Catnap worships. Catnap takes all the toys they catch there to worship the prototype. We had seen the scene where Catnap catches Bunzo Bunny firsthand. Bunzo was innocently moving forward, and suddenly Catnap mercilessly caught him. It is clear that Catnap had killed another player before us and took them there. So, according to the flow of the story in Chapter 3, in an area we did not see, there could have been another player who believed themselves entirely in the same story, trying to escape from the factory just like us. In this particular scene, we see a human skeleton in PJ Pug's mouth, and upon closer inspection, the hands appear to be tied with a rope. The person here is most likely one of our missing co-workers, as a toy transformation process seems to have been initiated, hence the tied hands. However, something may have gone wrong. Perhaps they were caught and ended up in this state after being transformed into a toy. But one thing we can infer from this is that whoever this is, they clearly resisted the prototype and their hands were tied as a result. However, contrary to us, their story ended at the shrine. If we had been caught by Catnap, most likely Catnap would have put us next to our co-worker there, and we would have been another piece of art in the shrine. It's possible that the memories of all the players turned into toys were erased, and they were all turned into an army of players who believed in the same story. I also think that the player program is a project of Poppy's. Before being locked in the cage by the prototype, Poppy might have tried to destroy the prototype to escape, but she may not have succeeded. We might not know Poppy's true intention before she was caught, and she could be hiding it from us. In fact, we might just be toys created to serve her ultimate purpose thanks to Poppy. Poppy asked us, "Do you even know what's real?" and then said no.
Do you even know what's real? No, you don't.
This sentence alone confirms the theories I'm currently talking about. When I first played, I thought Poppy said that sentence because of the hallucinations caused by Catnap, but it's actually not related to that. It's likely a much deeper story that will probably be revealed in later chapters. In this story, I think the prototype is a security mechanism designed to protect the toy factory, created to prevent such terrifying toys from ever leaving the factory under any circumstances. Poppy's goal is to kill the prototype, But when we look at the bigger picture, I believe that these dangerous toys should never mix with the world in any way. Considering the bad events inside the factory, if these were to spread outside, it could lead to a catastrophic disaster. So, the prototype not allowing any toy to leave might actually be the right decision. Poppy, on the other hand, believes that they should be able to leave and is trying to ensure the other toys' freedom while attempting to kill the prototype. If the prototype truly disappears, that line between the outside world and the factory will vanish. Poppy will achieve her goal and all the toys will spread to the world. The toys, starving to death, will try to devour the entire world. If we are truly toys and don't remember it, we might understand why the prototype didn't want to send us outside. Let's say that this theory is very unlikely to happen and is based on my personal observations, because if these theories come true, our perceptions of good and evil will fundamentally change since we all love Poppy. In this scenario, Poppy becomes a bad character, and the prototype actually turns into a good character. Because in this theory, the prototype is just a security system, collecting damaged toys and not allowing other toys to leave. Based on what we've been told so far, we see the prototype as an enemy. When we combine what we've seen in the tapes and what Poppy has told us, it seems to make sense. However, if nobody had told us anything and we had to make observations based solely on the prototype's behavior, it would seem like the prototype is protecting the outside world from the bad toys inside. In reality, when we look closely, the prototype never directly attacked us. It only came to collect the toys attacking us. Why did Poppy lock her up instead of killing her? That's a topic for another video. We discuss theories about Poppy playtime on our Discord server, and I inform you in advance about the videos I will upload to YouTube. By joining our Discord server, you can immediately see the videos when they are uploaded. You will get a notification. Additionally, you can chat with me, and those who join through the Join button on the channel get many extra features on Discord and YouTube. In short, come to our Discord server. I've put the link in the video's description and comments. I believe that my theory is quite difficult to come true and contains too many unknown details. Additionally, it makes Poppy into a bad character, so I think it's not very likely for these theories to be true. But on the other hand, could we really be a toy? Were all the answers right in front of us from the beginning? I think we might be a toy and transformed into the yellow toy in the footage. But is our character aware of this? Share your thoughts in comments. Also, only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. It's free and it's the only way for me to upload new theories. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and here, click this to watch my next video.